All right, so back to it here. We have our customizable shader. And one thing I did notice that we need to fix real quick is that the normals aren't working on here. They're really flat. So let's fix that problem real quick. So what I've done is missed one setting inside of here. And you can kind of see it if we open this up. If we look at the actual texture or the material, it's pink. That's weird. Why is it pink? Well, that's because, just like I did before, we need to set this to be a normal. And then it will work as a normal. See how that's working? So I can just save now. And now my normals will be working. Okay? So there's one other thing though. One of the things you may notice is that we don't have a lot of strength. We don't have a lot of power over this normal. That brings us to the next part, and the last part of this lesson is that we're trying to add more control. So we don't have a defined, material set for this. How do we do that? What's the deal? What is the way to do that? So let me open up our shader here. So like these are all set in stone. So how do we fix the problems? So here we go. Just this little part. There's more we're going to go into in the next few weeks, but for right now, we just want to at least be able to drag our own and use this on any object that we make instead of just the specific decals in this case. So we need to change. We'll start with this one. I'm going to close it up. We need to change this so it doesn't use a defined texture. So we're going to drag out of the 2D texture, and we're going to type, and we don't even have to type in if you want. You can, once you know the names of it, but you can go drop down the input and go to 2D asset out like that. And now it's got a 2D asset out. The cool thing is about this 2D asset out is if we right click on it, we can say convert to property, and pop, it goes inside of here. So what does that mean? What's the big deal with that? Well, first off, you'll notice that my texture is not on here anymore because it didn't default to have that texture. So if I say save asset, it's now empty. But it's empty. That means we can change it. We can go in and put it whatever we want. So if we come to our textures and we look at our decal base map and we throw it in here, it's now using that base map, and we have control over it. So we need to do that with all of them, right? So there's another way to do it. We can look at this and say plus and then texture 2D this way, and we can say normal. Oh, that's the other thing I forgot to do. We want to name this base so it makes sense as we look at other materials. And we'll say normal, and I can just drag this out this time, just like that. I'm going to open this normal up. We'll close this one down so we see it a little bit more clearly here. And I'll pull this in a little bit here. So if we take this, we dragged it out, we can move it over here and drag it right into there. And I keep grabbing the same thing there, just like that. So now our normal, if we save it, is exactly the same. So we just have to grab our trim decal normal and put it in there. Okay, so one more thing we want to do though is we want to give it the power that we have in our other materials to change the strength of it. So how do we do that? Well, all we have to do is change this to be a multiply on the way in, I believe it's called. And actually, it's not a multiply. It's called in the special node in this case, it's called a normal strength. Okay, so we right click on it, we say create node, and we type in normal. And we'll come up with a bunch of options. And if we look here, there's a normal strength. So we'll double click that, and it pops that node in for us. Again, we don't need the picture. But now it says it is an int3, so it's still looking for the RGB colors, and out3. So if I go to out3 for here, we'll see we lose our normal, but if I go to in3 for here, we gain our normal. Now, this is a special thing you have to understand about engineering, and really, this says strength 1. We can type in like 5 here, and then it should just multiply to it. But the problem is, we don't really want that. We want what's called a float, which is an integer that we can put in there that's a single digit. So we still have those controls out here. So we can right click in here, and we can say plus, and we can say float. And you'll see this, and we'll say normal strength. that. Then we could drag it out, and then we drag it into here. So now we have a normal strength. It's a float is a 0 to 1 decimal. Okay, so if we save, we'll see it's right there. And then if we look at our object, it seems to be being weird again. Oh, part of it is because in here it doesn't show the normal. Oh yeah, I noticed what it was. This was set to 0, so there's no normal on this now, right? Because it's set to 0. So let's change this to 2. And now look at that. We get our normal back, and we have control over the strength of it, just like we did before. Okay, so what else would we like to change? Well, let's close this up here and move this out of the way over here. And we'll take a look at this one we're using for our RGB, for our metal smoothness and everything. And one thing you'll notice is that, again, we want to do the same thing. So we want to click out here, input, or you could just say 2D, just 2D. Is it texture 2D? It's texture 2D. Yeah. Texture 2D asset out, like that. Right click on it, say convert to property, and there it is there. And then we're gonna click on this one and say mask, because we know it's going to those 3 channels. And then this we can actually change to UV1, which again, if you remember in Max, is UV2. Now we could have this so you could type in whatever you want, but for now we're just gonna do it this way to make our lines a little bit easier and not have to add something new. And then we can just save it. And now, look at that, it's on UV channel 2. And if we click on it, you'll see that we don't have mask there. So now we can come back to our mask metal, like this. And now our mask metal is on there. Cool, huh? So we can close this up, pull this out a little bit. And you know, you need to organize it so it's readable for you. It's not as clean in organization that I've seen yet. There probably is a way to do it. I just haven't played with it enough since the new versions come out. But to get what we want to be perfectly organized, because it does get a little messy inside here. Okay, so what else do we want? Well, we can do our emission. Look at our emission node. And I may actually, let me try something real quick. Create. Yeah, actually, I guess this needs to be an emission node. I just realized. This is a little bit different. So we're just going to delete this one, which of course will make the colors. Okay, so we're going to move our emission over here to kind of get it. Well, I guess we'll move it here. We'll take this sample 2D texture and throw it into here instead. And then we're going to take this one and put it into emissive, like that, which works better because of the colors, you can tell. And then we're going to add a multiply because the intensity is set to 1. And again, we want to kind of, first off, open this up and do this thing again. Let's call it input, texture, 2D asset. Okay, right click and we'll say convert to property. We'll name this emissive. And then, I don't know, I didn't mean to duplicate it there. Emissive like that, so we have that texture there. And then we want to take this intensity and go to multiply, like that. Okay, we're going to hide this one. And basically, and we're going to do the same thing here, and go up to here, and go float, like this, and then we're going to right click on it and say convert to property, which will put it up here, and we'll say emissive strength. that. And then we can say File, Save. And now we have an emissive texture. All these textures are now set. So the next thing we do is put it out. And I'll talk to you all later.